Ethan was a young man obsessed with urban exploration. One rainy night, he stumbled upon an abandoned building on the edge of town, an old asylum, whispered by locals to be cursed. With his flashlight in hand and phone ready to record, he stepped into the dark corridors. At first, everything seemed ordinary. Moldy walls, shattered windows, the stench of damp air. As he walked deeper, faint noises followed him. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, always coming from behind. Each time he stopped, silence consumed the air. But the moment he moved again, the footsteps returned. Scratches appeared along the walls. Fresh, deep marks, as though claws had dragged across the plaster. "It's just my imagination," Ethan muttered. "Old buildings creak, that's all." He tried to rationalize, but his flashlight began to flicker. In the cracked mirror hanging on the hallway wall, he caught a glimpse of something that froze his breath. A tall shadow with horns standing right behind him. He spun around only to find an empty hallway. His heartbeat thundered in his ears as he pushed forward. Suddenly, a broken ceiling light sparked for just a second, and in that split flash of illumination he saw it clearly. A massive figure with glowing red eyes silently following him. Ethan bolted down the corridor, but with every corner he turned, the sound of heavy footsteps and monstrous breathing grew closer and closer. Ethan's lungs burned as he sprinted down the endless hallway, his flashlight bouncing wildly in his trembling grip. Every doorway he passed seemed to whisper his name, as though the shadows themselves were calling him deeper into the asylum. The footsteps behind him grew heavier, shaking the floor. It wasn't just following, it was hunting. He turned sharply into a side corridor, nearly slipping on the damp tiles. The smell here was different, stronger, like iron and rotting meat. He gagged, pressing his hand over his mouth, but the stench only thickened. Somewhere in the dark, a low growl rolled through the walls. It wasn't human. It vibrated through his bones, making his knees buckle. His flashlight flickered again, casting broken frames of reality across the walls. For a split second, he saw something carved into the plaster. The same words, written over and over in jagged letters. "Don't look behind you." Panic clawed at his chest. Someone had been here before. Someone had known. He pressed forward, desperate, his flashlight beam shaking until it finally died, plunging him into suffocating blackness. In the silence, he heard it. The sound of breathing. Slow, deep, right behind him. Ethan froze in the darkness, his breath ragged, his fingers tightening around the dead flashlight like it could still protect him. The sound of that breathing, low, guttural, wet, was so close it made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. His instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs refused to move. It felt as if the air itself had turned heavy, pressing him down, trapping him. From the black void behind, something shifted. A faint scrape of claws against the wall. Then, silence. Ethan swallowed hard, his throat dry. He dared to take a single step forward. The floor creaked, and that tiny sound was enough. The silence broke. Heavy footsteps slammed against the ground. Boom, 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 each one closer, shaking the walls. Ethan broke into a sprint, blind, his hands brushing against the jagged walls to guide him. Splinters and rusted nails cut his skin, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Suddenly, his fingers brushed against a wooden door. With a desperate shove, he forced it open and stumbled into another room. The door slammed shut behind him with a thunderous echo. His chest heaved as he fumbled in the dark, trying to find something, anything, to block the entrance. But then, in the silence, he realized the room wasn't empty. The faint glow of red eyes appeared in the corner, and another pair, then another. The walls around him seemed to breathe, and in the stale air he heard voices whispering in unison, overlapping, rising into a dreadful chant. "Don't look behind you." Ethan staggered backward, his spine pressing against the cold wall as those glowing red eyes multiplied in the shadows. He counted at least 6 pairs, all unblinking, all fixed directly on him. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the room like a swarm of insects crawling inside his skull. "Don't look behind you. Don't look behind you." He covered his ears, but the voices were inside his head now, gnawing at his sanity. His pulse hammered so violently he thought his chest might burst. Then, with a sharp crack, his dead flashlight flickered back to life, just for a heartbeat, and illuminated the room. What he saw made his stomach twist. Figures stood in the corners, dozens of them, pale, gaunt, their faces hidden by burlap masks stitched crudely together. Each of them was carved with the same phrase across their skin: "Don't look behind you." The light died again, plunging everything back into blackness. A single voice broke through the whispers, louder than the rest, guttural and commanding, directly in his ear. "It's already here." Ethan froze, every nerve screaming. He could feel it now, something vast and unnatural towering behind him. Hot breath slid across the back of his neck, but he couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. And he knew, if he turned around, it would already be too late. Ethan's knees trembled. His body locked in place as the whispers merged into a deafening roar inside his head. The masked figures closed in, their slow, shuffling steps circling him like predators. The air grew colder, each breath visible, hanging in the dark. His flashlight, gripped so tight it cut into his palm, flickered again. Brief, frantic bursts of light. Each flash showed them closer. One step, another, their stitched masks dripping with something dark. Then the light hit the far wall. Words were carved deep into the plaster, fresh gouges still bleeding. "Don't look behind you." And beneath the warning, a single handprint, large, inhuman, pressed into the wall as though the creature itself had marked its territory. Ethan's chest heaved as he realized. The writing wasn't left by survivors. It was left by the thing hunting him. A cruel reminder. A ritual. The voices grew louder, pressing against his skull. His head throbbed as though it would split open. "Don't look. Don't look. Don't look." The floor shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. Something enormous moved in the darkness behind him, scraping its claws against the walls, dragging the sound closer and closer. The figure stopped moving. They tilted their heads in perfect unison, their glowing eyes fixed on Ethan, almost as if they were waiting for him to make a choice. He felt the heat of its breath again, wet and rancid on his neck. And then, Ethan squeezed his eyes shut, every muscle trembling, every instinct screaming at him to run. But his legs wouldn't obey. The whispers stopped. The silence was worse. Slowly, against every desperate thought in his mind, his head began to turn. Just a fraction. Just enough to glimpse the horror looming over him. A shadow, taller than the ceiling, bent unnaturally low, its face inches from his own. Two burning red eyes glared into him, unblinking, endless. Its mouth stretched open far too wide, filled with rows of jagged teeth, and the smell of decay poured into his lungs. The figures in the room dropped to their knees as if worshipping it. Their voices returned in one final whisper, all at once, echoing like 1,000 voices inside his skull. "We warned you." The flashlight in his hand shattered, plunging the asylum into complete blackness. And Ethan screamed, only for the sound to be cut short. When the police entered the asylum, weeks later, all they found was his camera lying on the floor. The last seconds of the recording were nothing but darkness. And the sound of breathing, impossibly close to the microphone,